Hey, want to listen to some tunes?
The Touhou project is more than just a series of bullet hell shmups. It's a pop culture sensation that's expanded far beyond the medium of just video games. With a dedicated fanbase all over the globe, consider myself part of that fanbase. Hey, I told you I was a little bit weeb. Each game is a memorable experience, thanks largely in part to the absolutely legendary soundtracks by series creator and noted alcohol enthusiast, ZUN. A talented game designer and composer, not to mention creating fun and fascinating characters in every game, with very distinct designs. What kind of savant is this guy? Must be something in the alcohol. I just wanted to give a little insight into why this series is special to me and so many others. One day I'd like to make a big documentary video for Touhou, but for now I'd just like to focus on my favorite game in the series, Subterranean Animism. Touhou Chiraiden, Subterranean Animism, the 11th official game in the series, was released in 2008 for Windows PCs. It sets a very different tone from the previous games by hitting you right off the bat with this energetic theme that lets you know that this is going to be an exciting and harrowing adventure into the unknown. It's unlike previous entries such as Imperishable Night, which starts with a very gentle and mystical melody. The story takes place in the world of Gensokyo, a realm separated from the human world where yokai and other mythical beings can continue to exist, along with a minority of humans. One day, a giant geyser erupts out of nowhere and brings with it a large amount of earth spirits. It's another incident that must be dealt with, so series heroines Raymoo Hakure and Marisa Kirisame. Yes, I am painfully aware of how cringy those names sound coming out of my mouth. I'm doing the best I can. Must build a giant drill made out of unobtainium so that it can withstand the pressure. Raymoo or Marisa must take a literal trip to the center of the earth and figure out what's going on. However, this is a task that might prove too difficult for our heroines alone. They're going to need some help from friends that were once enemies. Subterranean Animism revisits the idea of having a partner character from Imperishable Night and puts a twist on it. Both characters have the choice of one of 3 supporting characters that change both the playstyle and the dialogue for a playthrough. Yukari Yakumo supports Raymoo with a powerful front-facing needle attack that melts through bosses if you can keep a bead on them. And since Yukari is a gap yokai with the power to open portals, you also get the ability to warp from one side of the screen to the other by tapping in that direction. A useful ability, provided you don't warp straight into an enemy. Aya Shemimaru gives an option that can be fired in any direction based on your movement, and can be locked in position using the focus button. And since Aya is the fastest Tengu reporter in all of Gensokyo, you're granted immense speed while not firing. Suika Ibuki, one of my favorite characters, gives you homing projectiles and the ability to collect all items on the screen by releasing all buttons. You also get a nifty bomb that changes enemy projectiles into your own homing projectiles. Marisa's first partner, Alice Margatroyd, is a puppet-wielding yokai magician. Normally you get 4 power-up levels, but Alice's playstyle gives you 8, with each level up giving Marisa another doll. Be careful though, because unlike the other styles, focusing with this one spreads out your shots instead of narrowing them down. It takes some getting used to. Patchouli Knowledge, the anemic librarian magician, grants Marisa the 5 Elements Formation, a style that allows you to change which direction you fire in by pressing the shot and focus buttons simultaneously. A good playstyle for when you've played through the game a bunch of times and you know where enemies are going to come from. With her first 2 partners being magic users, I think ZUN wanted to spice things up for the third. So here we have everybody's favorite Kappa inventor, Nitori Kawashiro, a very industrious little yokai that gives Marisa a set of torpedo launchers, along with my favorite bomb in the game, the optical camouflage. Using this doesn't deal any damage. Instead, it puts up a long-lasting barrier that protects you from a hit and refunds burns half the power cost if it runs out on its own. I've mentioned bombs a few times, and there's something important to note. This isn't like other shmups that give you a stock of bombs to freely use with every life. In this game, using a bomb costs 1 level of your shot power. This isn't so bad during stages, since you can usually get back up to full power without much trouble, but bombing during a boss can be devastating due to your lower damage causing the fight to take longer. And trust me, you do not want to be spending a lot of time in some of these phases. Grazing, besides gaining points, which I don't care much about in this series, has a useful effect of collecting every item on the screen to your character once this meter in the bottom left fills up. Let's discuss which version of the game you should play. Subterranean Animism is available for purchase on Steam now, something that fans have wanted for a long time, and frankly I was surprised that it actually happened. However, while I do recommend buying it on Steam, I don't recommend playing that version. First, it wasn't translated to English, which for a series as well known as this one, I find pretty lazy and a little disrespectful to the fans. Also, this version doesn't allow for remapping of keys, something that you might want if you're using a controller. I think it's because this is a pre-patched version or something. There are rumors that Zune actually lost the source code and had to download some version off the internet to put on Steam. Wow. I recommend buying the Steam version and downloading a patched version off the internet with a fan-made English translation. Not that it's required to play the game, but there is a lot of chuckle-worthy dialogue that'd be a shame to miss. Well, whatever, you look suspicious, so I'll just beat you. And that, my friends, is the motive behind half the conflicts in this series. Update! Literally on the day that I was going to upload this video, I happened to check Steam, and turns out the game has been taken down temporarily. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the false positives or because of the other issues I mentioned, but just know that as of the time of this uploading, the game is actually not available for purchase on Steam right now. That's pretty much the end of my review portion of the video. Subterranean Animism is an excellent game, and it's one of my favorite shmups. I highly recommend you give it a try. Just know that making this your first exposure to the series, and then moving on to the other games, will be like Rock Lee taking off his leg weights, since this is one of the harder main entries. If you'd like something easier to start with, I recommend 10 Desires. Because this game is so special to me, I would like to play through it and talk about each level and boss. If you don't want most of the game spoiled, I completely understand if you want to leave the video now. For the rest of you, let's get started. Let me just pick my difficulty here and Hey! Shut up. These games are hard no matter what difficulty you play them on. I better not see any comments down there saying easy modo. Seriously, don't rattle my bones. Man, what a start. Let me put things in perspective. This is the start of Imperishable Night. Here's the start of Perfect Cherry Blossom. But then Touhou 11 comes along and is all... This game doesn't mess around. After fighting your way past giant boulders and Bucket Girl, nobody cares about Bucket Girl, meet the first boss, Yamame Kurodani, the brown spider of sickness, a yokai with the power to control disease. It's a perfect example of the kind of characters you're going to meet in the underground. All of them are either fearfully strong or have wretched abilities that make them unwanted in the light, even though this particular character actually chooses not to use her power. I recommend checking out the Touhou Encyclopedia online if you want to read about a ton of really fascinating characters. Link in the description. Stage 2 changes the mood from intense to uneasy, with an oppressively green atmosphere that reflects the nature of the boss, and a theme that starts with an uncomfortable beat and later becomes filled with anger. Anger that is no doubt born from jealousy. Speaking of which, this is Parse Mizuhashi, the Green Eyes of Jealousy. Just as Yukari Yakumo is somewhat of a guardian of the boundary between Gensokyo and the human world, Parse guards the bridge between the surface world and the underworld. Kinda reminds me of somebody. Her power is to control the jealousy in others, and some of her attacks follow the player around. Her theme is filled with sorrow, which betrays the true nature behind the smiling mask. Parse is never happy. She is a yokai of pure jealousy. On to stage 3, and it's yet another radical change in tone. Welcome to the underground city of yokai, a snowy place where the lights are warm and inviting, the drinks are plentiful, and the partying don't stop. Halfway through you'll come across a character that attacks you without comment, but quickly takes a liking to you after enduring her attacks. Yugi Hoshiguma, the Strong, is a great example of a Touhou character that doesn't have a nefarious motive or animosity towards humans. She's a very straightforward oni with an incredible fondness for drink, made apparent by the special dish that she always carries with her that increases the quality of sake poured into it. Her lore also states that her physical strength far exceeds that of other yokai, making her quite possibly the strongest character in the series. Thankfully, this fight is just all in good fun for her. I really like her Hell's Wheel of Pain spell card. She creates these circles that must be attacked to shrink them so that you can pass, but attack them too much and you'll be punished. But the time for partying is over, because next up is stage 4, and stage 4 is something else. I've experienced a lot in this series, and heard some truly amazing music. I soared above the clouds to reach a portal to the netherworld and had my mind blown by the Prism River Trio and their bombastic musical performance. And I've navigated a strange, dark dimension with the pounding heart in my chest betraying my unease. The Touhou series is filled with memorable experiences like these, and Stage 4 of Subterranean Animism is one of them. Welcome to the Satori Mansion. What an amazing track. It begins with an almost childlike tune, backed up by a choir to give it a mysterious feeling. Later it morphs into a dark, melancholic melody, selling the notion that there is a person living in this place that is shunned and feared. After being pestered by the pet cat of the mansion's owner, she finally reveals herself. Satori Komiji, the frightening eyes that no one loves. A yokai known as a Satori that can read minds and make you relive past trauma. This power causes her to be feared by the other yokai and spirits of the underground, with the exception of her pets, Orin and Oku. More on them later. This fight is unique in that you will face different spell cards that your partner used against you during your first encounter in previous games. And the track? Oh man, what is there to say? It screams one singular message, that there is nothing you can hide from Satori. To her, your heart is an open book. The Touhou crew has been through a lot, but I think braving the fires of literal hell is about as tough as it gets. This is the longest stage in the game, making it quite the endurance. It had been about a decade since I last played these games seriously, and I definitely had some rust that needed knocking off. My first attempt at finishing stage 5 for this video, it didn't go so great. This stage teaches you right off the bat that sometimes it's better to stop firing. Letting these enemies explode on their own creates a rain of Danmaku that's much easier to dodge. Of course, you can take them out yourself if you're in need of power-ups or points. What a depressing stage this is. I have trouble putting the theme into words, but I do know that about halfway through, it starts playing a trumpet to go with the motif of blazing heat. Something that Scarlet Weather Rhapsody would use in a few tracks. Jeez, this damn cat just won't leave us alone. Thing's been following us since we left the man- Oh, holy shit! Rin Kaiembyo, Hell's traffic accident? A yokai responsible for collecting corpses to feed the fires of hell. Makes sense that a character like her would be down here. Everybody knows that cats are the guardians of the underworld.
Look at I got.
Despite her morbid occupation and the stage leading up to her, she's quite the cheerful character with a very light-hearted theme called Be of Good Cheer. Make no mistake though, she's on a mission to corpsify you and is gonna give you one hell of a time, summoning lots of spirits that keep coming back after you destroy them. I always have trouble with her Rekindling of Dead Ashes spell card. Enjoy this last bit of lightheartedness while you can, because everything beyond this point will leave you breathless. We've reached the core. Not much to say about the stage, it's just an utter onslaught of spirits and crows with an appropriately intense theme. Not to mention Orin coming back for a third and final time to try and claim your corpse. Probably the first time that a character has been fought in 3 separate stages. It's time to face one of the most powerful characters in Touhou lore. This is the raw, infinite power of the sun. Satori's second pet after Orin, Oku, the Raven, also known as Utsuho Ryuji, the nuclear reactor of hell. Strap yourselves in because this character is bazonkers. Basically, she ate Yatagarasu, the god of the sun, and gained its power over nuclear fusion. The geyser that led to Raymoo or Marissa coming to the underworld was created from Ryuji releasing all of her excess energy. Now she's on a mission to take over the surface world and turn it into a new hell of blazing fires. Fun fact, it was Ryuji's power that wound up kicking off the events of the next game in the series, Undefined Fantastic Object. Zune may not be the best artist, but he comes up with the most amazing designs for his characters. Aside from the giant cannon on her right arm that's based on a nuclear control rod, she also has a mass of melted metal on her right foot that's a reference to the elephant's foot in Chernobyl, one of the most radioactive things on the planet. Subtle. This is truly one of the most legendary and iconic final encounters in the series. It takes the theme of doing battle with a being of infinite nuclear power and runs with it. Each spell card begins with an iconic warning alarm, with a nuclear caution sign popping up. Many of her attacks are massive balls of energy, which as far as I know was a first for the series. And the theme, nuclear fusion, face meltingly amazing. For the brief period that this fight takes place, it sucks you out of the real world and absorbs 100% of your attention. I feel like I am Raymoo, trying my hardest to stop a world-ending threat. And once I got to that final spell card, where Ryuji turns into a sun with its own gravitational pull, my heart was pounding in my ears. This fight is a goddamn spectacle, a mastercraft of Danmaku encounters, a fucking amazing experience. And watching this footage back, I just noticed that there's a cat in the background of her spell cards. Why? Well, I looked into it, and apparently it's supposed to be a reference to irradiated cats that have colonized the abandoned city of Pripyat, another reference to Chernobyl. I don't know, Zun's a weird guy. And there you have it, the 6 incredibly memorable stages to my favorite Touhou game. But I have a feeling if I don't address something, then I'll get some hate comments for being a slacker. There's actually an extra stage. It's a reward for beating the game on normal difficulty and above without continuing, which means that while I can 1cc the game on easy mode, that's not good enough to see the extra stage. I'm sorry, I don't think I have the skill to do it. Getting that good is a massive time sink, and I have too much other stuff that I want to do. Perhaps sometime in the future. But this is the perfect opportunity to point you in the direction of some of the best Touhou animations based on this game. Brambly Boundaries is a Blender animation by -T that focuses on the extra stage. And I can't lie, I think it's the best Touhou animation ever made. There's not a single line of spoken dialogue in this thing, and it still manages to convey a ton of character. If watching this doesn't make you feel something, I'm gonna call Orin and tell her there's a corpse to be picked up because you are dead inside. There's also Subterranean Stars, another Blender animation by the same person that focuses on the main 6 stages. Whereas Brambly Boundaries is more of an emotional experience, this one is more visceral and intense. It does move a little bit from the source material by giving Marissa a badass rocket broom. The last one is a dogfight animation between Raymoo and Touhou. It's an older video, so it doesn't have the same high production values of the other two, but I'll be damned if this still doesn't give me goosebumps every time I watch it. There's a lot more physical interaction here, like with Raymoo straight up rocking Touhou's shit with a left hook. God, that is awesome. I'll put links to these in the description. I want to thank you for joining me on this adventure through a game that's very special to me. I hope this will convince some of you to try this series and discover for yourselves what makes it so special. This video was more of a personal thing that I've been wanting to do. I usually release videos of really good games that you may have never heard of. If you're interested in more, please subscribe, and I'll see you in 2021 for another year of The Bone Zone. And for those of you that are already subscribed, hey, thanks a lot for sticking around. Until next time, have a good holiday. This is A Skeleton, signing out.